Hello and welcome to Moonshot Nutrition. My name's Addison and today I want to talk to you about why dogmas suck. The easiest and shortest way to explain it is to simply tell you if you use a dogmatic approach to truth, you will inevitably be wrong. That's it. That is literally the one sentence version of why dogmas suck. But I will go a little deeper just so that you don't have to take my word for it. And I'm going to use a real world example of what happened with dietary advice surrounding weight loss in this country. At one point in time, scientists were trying to figure out what made human beings fat. They were trying to figure this out even prior to World War II. The Germans had started to realize, as well as Austrians, a lot of their science, they were actually at the forefront, and they were starting to realize that it looked like there might be a hormonal connection. They were thinking, I think hormones affect how we gain or lose weight. World War II happened. The natural backlash against all things German-speaking happened. And then suddenly we just started to focus on dietary fat. Now, certainly the wish to question dietary fat made sense. There's fat in plants, fat in animals, and fat in human beings. Maybe there's a connection to the fat in our diet and the fat on our bodies. There's a great logic there. The problem wasn't that they asked the question. The problem is they created an answer to the question before they actually answered the question. That became the dogma that we started using in the 70s and then really powerfully in the 80s for low-fat diets and calorie counting. Mainly the low-fat diets applies to this story. We just assumed that the logic was so beautiful, if there's too much fat in your diet, there'll be too much fat on your body. It does have a nice simplicity to it. The only problem is we instantly started ignoring any data, any experiment results, and conclusions that disagreed with that preconceived notion, that dogma. Lo and behold, here we are more than 30 years later, and we have now come to realize, actually more than 40 years later from when it all really started, and we've now realized that we were wrong. A diet high in fat does not automatically cause fat gain to a human being. That's not how it works. And the really sad truth to it is not only have we wasted decades and billions of dollars in BS marketing campaigns, food products that should have never been invented, you name it, but there have been literally millions of people that died prematurely using bunk science because they allowed a dogma to cloud how they thought about the world instead of real evidence. You have to ignore dogmas. I don't mind biases, a bias. All human beings have bias. Whenever you meet a human being that goes, oh yes, I'm objective. Well, congratulations, you just met another human being you could ignore because the answer is no, they don't. Or no, they aren't. They are not objective. Because to be objective is to be without a bias. And guess what human beings always have? That's right, a bias. You have this because you have emotions. You are an emotionally driven human being. There is something in this world you love, other things in this world you hate. And to experience love or hate is to experience emotions. Sorry, we always have a bias. So don't find a dogma that you like. Again, ignore all dogmas. Instead, figure out what kind of bias makes the most sense to you. Find a bias that you understand and that you agree with. A bias that is rooted in proper evidence, even if it's not hardcore scientific. Find a bias that works. So let me give you an example of what my obvious bias is. My bias is, first, I'm interested in what your biology says on the matter. I don't care if it should work or if it seems like it should work. Does it actually work when we introduce this idea to your biology? And then the other three things that affect my bias is it simple? The more complicated it is, the less likely we as human beings are able to make it work. Again, that isn't to say I ignore complexity of your biology, but I want to know relative to implementation, is it simple? Is it effective? I think that pretty much speaks for itself. And is it sustainable? Financially, logistically, right? Can you actually sustain it? If not, who cares? Those are all of those four things encompass my main bias when it comes to health. So what's yours? What works for you? What gives you the best outcome? Find the people that have a bias that you think works, that makes sense to you. Those are the people you should follow. And don't be afraid to occasionally listen to people with a bias that's different from your own, because remember, good evidence can come from any source, no matter how crazy we may think them. If somebody has an idea that you can't easily knock off, then you need to investigate that idea further, or you too are operating under a dogma. Remember, to avoid dogmas, you have to get really good at sensing a dogma. And let me tell you, that is a practice skill. Very few people do it innately. You have to start practicing it. You have to get good at it. You have to sniff out dogmas the way dogs sniff out doggy treats, okay? You have to get in there and find them yourself and get rid of them. And then find anybody that's giving advice on anything. Find the people that are the least dogmatic that you can, or completely non-dogmatic if possible. And you're going to find people that give oddly good advice even if you don't necessarily like their bias. As always, I hope this helps. My name's Addison. This is Moonshot Nutrition. Spread whatever you learned here to other people. Make the world a better place. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.